Shout bombastic slogans of defiance. This is Thinking Liberty.
Woohoo!
It is Tuesday, June 29th, 2010, and we are live on thinkingliberty.net.
Yeah, if you want to contact us, if you want to call in, if you want to do anything like that, you can find out all the different options at thinkingliberty.net, and we would love to hear from you.
All right, I'm Darian Warden.
This is Bosco.
And this is Bile.
All right, and Laura's over there.
I'm here because Tennyson is not.
Yet.
Yes, he might
may
be
here.
here.
Tennyson is a mystery man. He just descends from the ceiling occasionally in the middle of our show. And
Maybe he got caught in jetpack traffic on the way over.
It was busy, so maybe.
That's true. That's very true.
So I think you had some interesting news about Tennyson.
Oh, well, should I just spill the beans, or should I offer it to our listeners if they can do something?
Spill
Maybe we should
beans?
wait until Tennyson's actually here.
Okay, all right. We'll wait till Tennyson's actually here, but I will tell you this: if things go well during the show and we get enough of a positive reaction, I drove Tennyson home from PorkFest. I will tell you exactly what he left in my van, and it's very, very interesting.
It's good stuff.
It's actually not as interesting as you can make it sound, but you can make it sound pretty
okay,
interesting.
so we've got this nice idea, this nice gimmick, and you want to piss on it.
You always gotta
That's
shoot
cool.
stuff down, Darian, all the time. All the good ideas out the window because you're here.
I thought that was Bile. Am I like taking over for him or something on the idea shooting down?
Apparently.
Apparently.
Wow.
I need
Anyway,
new
what
friends.
else are we doing
actually
today?
doesn't shoot any ideas down. He just seems like he
He's-
would.
he's too busy doing
No.
stuff.
He does, but he does it silently. He rolls his eyes and he sighs.
He just cuts our mics when he's tired of hearing our shit.
As we ramble on. and
Okay,
on.
so this is an interactive broadcast. You can interact with us on that good stuff on the sidebar of thinkingliberty.net. We're going to have Gary Chartier on the show tonight. Gary is he is member of Center for Stateless Society. He is involved in the Stateless University that C4SS.org does, and he'll be talking about that later. Also, in the second hour, we're going to discuss the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which we were all at.
That's true.
All right. Should we get into this radical show, dudes?
Radical show. Why do you say radical show?
Radical show, because that makes us terrorists.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you're radical, you if you have views that other people would consider extreme based on what they currently believe, then you're a terrorist?
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not so extreme and 10 being extremely extreme, I give this show a 9.5.
All right. I
So-
guess that'd be pretty radical.
That would be pretty radical. But I was listening to some other radio station on the way in here. They're fancy, so they can actually broadcast on the AM band.
Through the ether.
And they had the New Jersey Homeland Security, what's he called? The Secretary of Homeland Security, I believe.
You sure it's not a czar?
The czar.
Grand poobah?
What a
Holy wizard?
the commissar of Homeland Security.
Janet Napolitano.
No, it was for the state of New Jersey. So it was.
Not that big.
It's not Bob Barr, right?
It's
Bob
not
Barr.
Bob Barr, but they were talking about this this case. You might have heard of it, where there were a bunch of Russian spies found, some of whom were in New Jersey, and the secretary was saying that you got to look out because there could be spies in the neighborhood, and they have a quote directly from him saying, and a lot of people who are American citizens are now becoming radicalized.
Uh-oh.
So if you see something, say
something.
something. So if you're not a terrorist by the end of this show, then we're not doing our job.
And you should say something.
You should say something.
So what? Okay, so when they say radicalized, what do you think they mean?
Well, it's just, I think, a cheap way for them to say that any opposition is a threat. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. It's that if you have views that are considered radical. I mean, it's just, I think George Orwell had it right that language can be used for a lot of political purposes. And when you use sloppy language like radical to, cover somebody who believes that someone going to work in the wrong office building should be incinerated, and also somebody who believes that we need radical changes getting down to the roots of the evil in society, you're going to be able to just cover all opposition. And I think that's really the way it works.
I think you kind of, if you use the term radical, you also probably pin Charles Johnson pretty bad. I mean, he's got it right in the moniker there, Rad Geek. That's tough.
Well, Charles Johnson, our friend who blogs at radgeek.com, he did officially register Alliance of the Libertarian Left as a subversive organization with South Carolina. Was it South Carolina?
I forget. It was one of the Carolinas.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it was South Carolina. So they, basically they had this old law, I think, from the Cold War era, and it was recently discovered by some bloggers, and the way the story spread out, it sounded like it was a new law. So Radgeek registered Alliance of the Libertarian Left. And
see that's what kills me about the word radicalized is it's a word based on thoughts and not a word based on action. And anytime you judge your laws based on thoughts, that whole thought crime idea, it's kind of scary. It's like, well, you hold radical beliefs, therefore you are a terrorist, therefore you are subject to penalty. It's like, it doesn't matter if you did anything. It's just what you believe. That's kind of disturbing.
And there's an Alliance of the Libertarian Left pin that says, anarchism is the radical notion that other people are not your property. So everybody should be ruling their own life, not ruling the lives of others. And is this idea really more dangerous than the vast amount of power vested in the military-industrial complex? You know, are these big fighter jet formations really a good thing compared to, say, an anarchist arrangement?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. I was dialing 911 to report you.
Okay. Well, you saw something and you said
Exactly.
something.
Exactly. I saw a radical. I said, hey, come get this damn radical.
Bosco, you are such a good American.
Can we get a nice patriotic music here for him?
I don't know if she has that
I'm
that
not
ready to go.
I was eating my coconut shrimp and surfing Facebook while you guys were talking about radicalism.
Coconut shrimp is delicious.
Is it radical?
But what?
Radical thirst quencher.
All right.
Anyway, all right. What else do we got on the agenda?
Speaking of some radicals, there were some radicals up at the G20 summit over the weekend.
Oh, yeah. Where was that held?
That was in Toronto,
Okay.
in the great land of Canada.
The great land of Canada, which is larger than the United States. Just saying.
America's hat.
Size matters.
Do Canadians like it on top?
Yes, they do.
Because T-shirt I've seen has alleged that is the case.
You know what I love about Canada is you have that like whole section in the top where nobody in their right mind wants to live. So it's like, yes, it's bigger than
Even
the US.
ice road truckers.
Even ice road truckers don't want to be doing that.
So what was going on here? So you have a big summit, you know, the world's leaders talking about how they're going to dominate the global economy and the best ways to make it function well. And, you know, some people don't like this whole idea of them dominating the global economy because political dominance always means that anybody who's in the way gets pushed off their land, they get their property taken from them, and they get killed if need be. So
yeah, it kind of stinks for the smaller person involved.
So people were up there resisting, you know, there were anarchists breaking stuff as usual. And there were some very strange detention centers set up. They're basically large outdoor cages that some of them contain porta-johns with no door on them for security purposes. And the people there were hardly fed. They were hardly given any clean water whatsoever to drink, so naturally people got sick. They were held there for a really long time without being charged. And they found out, according to a Boing Boing article, that some of the people there, they were held on laws that weren't even real laws. Like, they were just cited for something that wasn't even a law. It's really insane.
A made-up series of numbers? Is that what you're telling me?
I don't know exactly how it worked, but basically you have this concentration camp where, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to call it that. It is an encampment where people are being temporarily detained, and you know, this is how this works. I mean,
I don't know though. Concentration camp usually implies death at the end or being worked
no,
to
that's
death.
a death camp.
It's a death camp.
The original concentration camps were actually for Cuban insurgents by Spain and then by America during the colonial era in the late 19th century.
Wow. All right, Mr. History dropping some facts on me over here. Good to know. Okay.
So I mean, okay, they weren't kept there very long, so it's just a temporary concentration camp. But I mean, if you need this kind of stuff to keep your big summit of the most powerful people in the world safe, maybe you're doing something wrong. Like, maybe this whole idea that you need some global elite to decide how everybody's going to live is just a bad idea in the first place.
Why don't they just have it on like some secretive island and or grove somewhere?
Perhaps a Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, or a Jekyll Island. I mean, there's all kinds of good places to do secret shenanigans.
Yeah, but then you don't get it's just not the same, when people don't know you're doing it. It's like, I don't know, when like burglars or serial killers, they leave clues, and it's just so much more exciting.
They want to get caught. They want to be seen.
It's so much more exciting when people know that you're in control and all.
All right.
I think I'm going to go for that story anyway. And plus, you got to look like a legitimate government if anybody's going to take you seriously. You're not just some, well-dressed gang. You're a government.
We're not some pansy government. We put our dissidents in cages and don't feed them. How you like them apples?
We're going to beat you up and then fill the streets with poison gas because we can.
Oh, man. I saw, speaking of filling the streets with poison gas, I saw a interesting video. I think it was from one of the G20 protesters, where he basically tells the cop to fuck off. And the cop's like, well, why do you have all this stuff? And the anarchist just like, because you throw poison gas at us. He's like, that's why I have a gas mask, because you gas us. Which is kind of funny. And the anarchist actually brings up the fact, he's like, and in fact, we pay you to gas us, which is even more insulting. So you take our money and you use our money to throw canisters of gas at us.
If we didn't have a tax-supported police force, how would we have these cops protecting us out of our lives sometimes? Sometimes we get out of line and we need people to beat us up. Isn't that right?
Well, you've got examples in history of private police forces beating people up. I mean, if you want to look at like the Pinkertons, they cracked some skulls in their time, and they were a private union-breaking police force.
That's why I think it's important to have the structure in mind. I mean, it wasn't just that they were a private police force. They were a private police force within a very statist, state-dominated economy serving the needs of power.
And they were like the private police force, too. So the one group on one side had the ability and the wealth to hire this group of people, where the other side was woefully, woefully underpowered.
So maybe some kind of community organizations, neighborhood watch, community militia, cop watch kind of things are better solution.
Yeah, or, you could even throw it back to, like, property rights and just be like, well, if the people who lived in the city actually owned the city, then they couldn't have the G20 there, because where would they have it? If the residents really, really didn't want it, there'd really be no room for them.
They have to put that really high security fence and multi-million-dollar security force somewhere.
I suppose. I mean, it's a lot of money. You figure, how much money do they spend, you think, busting people's heads open at the G20?
I don't know.
I forget what the numbers were that were spec'd, but they were pretty high, like multi-million-dollar, like tens of, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars for the entire event.
Oof.
All right, so it's about 8:15. Are we going to go to break and get Gary Chartier on the line in a minute here?
Yep.
All right, so again, you're listening to thinkingliberty.net. When we come back, we are going to have Gary Chartier on. He's going to talk about Stateless University at c4ss.org. We're also going to talk about the Porcupine Freedom Festival, maybe get into some recent Supreme Court cases and Facebook controversies. And that's just what we do.
Maybe we'll tell you what Tennyson left in the van, too.
Maybe we will talk all about Tennyson. Stay tuned. ThinkingLiberty.net.
I'm an alligator. My mama, papa for you. I'm the space invader. I'll be a rock and rollin' bitch for you. Keep your mouth shut. Just walking like a big monkey bird. And I'm busting up a brain for the world. Keep your electric on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space close to my love. Freak out in a moon age daydream, oh yeah. Don't fake it, baby. Lay the real thing on me. The church of man love is such a holy place to be. Make me, baby. Make me know you really care. Make me jump into the air. Keep your electric on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space close to my love. Freak out in a moon age daydream, oh yeah. Yeah. Keep your electric on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space close to my love. Freak out in a moon age daydream, oh. Keep your electric eye on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space close to my love. Freak out in a moon age daydream, oh yeah. Freak out. Far out. In out.
And we are back on thinkingliberty.net, Tuesday, June 29th edition. This is Darian. We got Bosco over there,
See.
Biles over there, Laura's over there.
Hello.
And on the line is Gary Chartier. How you doing, Gary?
Oh, it's great to be with you guys. I'm doing just fine.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show, Gary.
My pleasure.
All right, so why don't you start off just to introduce yourself for anyone who might not be familiar with you or your work?
Sure. So I'm Associate Professor of Law and Business Ethics and Associate Dean of the Business School at La Sierra University. Most of my academic work these days focuses on issues in legal and political theory, and my particular interest right now is law in a stateless society. I've got a popular book called The Conscience of an Anarchist that's, I hope, going to find a publisher in the next couple of months, and I'm working on a more substantial work in legal philosophy called Anarchy Under Law. So that's kind of what I'm up to these days.
Okay, could you maybe give us an idea of what this Conscience of an Anarchist book is about?
Absolutely. It's a short, I hope accessible, popular book that's designed to make a case for anarchism. So it offers several overlapping considerations that support anarchism, including the illegitimacy of the state, the fact that people can do for themselves what the state professes to do for them, and the fact that the state is profoundly threatening to freedom, that it's threatening to peace and security, and that it tends to prop up privileged economic elites. So for all of those reasons, I suggest people ought to do without the state and ought to opt for a society that they freely create themselves without coercion and with peace.
That sounds great. Sounds like it could be a good introductory text to share with people who want to know more about anarchism.
Well, that's sure my hope. I've tried to write a small book that is, as you might guess from the title, which plays off a number of famous conscience books in American political history. I've tried to write a book that's really about the same size as Barry Goldwater's The Conscience of a Conservative, a little book that you ought to be able to pop into your jacket pocket or your purse and read on the train and pass out to people at your discretion. So I'm hoping it's a book that will be read widely and discussed widely, and it won't seem like a kind of threateningly complex academic text, but it'll be accessible and easy to read and understand and debate.
That's very cool. I'm a big fan of little books myself. Like you said, I like the ones that you can pop in your pocket and you can read on the train. You can read it while waiting for something. Tiny books are good.
Amen.
Cool. So you're involved in the Stateless University program that Center for a Stateless Society is doing. I was wondering if, what exactly is Stateless University?
Well, so around the U.S., we have lots of state universities, and everywhere from the California State University, the Ohio State University, State University of New York. We thought it was time for a university that explicitly disclaimed association with the state to start to work. So the idea here is that we'll be offering serious college-level, university-level coursework for very low prices that will prepare people to think critically about their place in society and what they can do to change things and improve them. So what we've started with is what we're calling a certificate in anarchist theory and practice. And that certificate will involve completing four courses. We're starting out with an introduction to anarchism. I taught that course for the first time this spring, and two new versions of the course have debuted just this week, taught by my friends James Tuttle and Roman Pera. And the ATP 101 introduction course gives people a grounding in the idea of a stateless, self-organized society. And then to get the certificate, you'll need to complete 3 additional courses leading up to a kind of capstone course that's probably going to involve a careful reading, at least in this first version, of Rothbard's Ethics of Liberty. We're working on a number of other courses for the rest of the certificate. Charles Johnson is going to be doing a course this fall, I believe, in anarchist strategy, and we have some other things in mind, including a course perhaps on mutualism and related topics that Kevin Carson might be able to do for us, and we're having conversations with other folks who we believe will enrich the curriculum a lot as well. I've just been having some exchanges with Don Meinshausen, who's got decades of fascinating history as an anarchist in the libertarian movement, a guy who was converted to anarchism by Karl Hess, and he may be doing a guest lecture, maybe even a course for us as well. So we're hoping to offer people a rich array of options just with respect to the certificate, and then I guess we'll see where we go from there, in terms of what kind of programming might be of interest to people who want to find out more about the options for folks in a stateless society.
Yeah, we had Don on the show. He's a fun guy. Where and how would people take these courses, I guess would be my question.
Well, so where? They're online, and it's possible to register for them through the C4SS.org website, the Center for a Stateless Society website. And I don't remember the web address immediately, but if you go to the C4SS website, you can get registration information. As I say, the courses are quite inexpensive. The first course was $25, and we then hook you up. Once you register, we hook you up with a Moodle account. Moodle is an open source course management platform that allows you to upload upload assignments and download syllabi and other course materials and participate in online chats and so forth. And so then things will proceed from there. You'll get instructions from via Moodle about where to show up online for chats and how to upload things and so forth, and it should all be pretty straightforward.
Cool. So you just go to c4ss.org, and then it'll be pretty self-explanatory from there. You just find the Stateless University link and then go through the instructions.
Exactly.
All right, awesome. Well, what this really makes me think of is kind of the anarchist version of political science courses. I took a number of political science courses during my undergraduate studies at Rutgers, and they always seem to start from they just kind of assumed the premise that we need some kind of state control. It's like, what policy proposals should we make? What's the most effective method of governance? What can we predict by a certain government action? So it's really cool to see almost the same approach, but from the stance of we don't need a state. Here's why we don't need a state, and here's how we're going to get to this this society of no rulers.
Anarcho Tom is calling it anti-political science, which I think is a kind of cool play on words there.
I think that's an excellent label. 3 cheers to Anarcho Tom. If he doesn't mind, we may use that in the future, because I think that's a very apt description of what we're up to.
So somebody taking these courses, what kind of time investment can they expect to make?
Well, so obviously we're still kind of feeling our way around and trying to figure out how we're doing things. But the first course that I taught in the spring was 8 weeks long. What that involved was reading several chapters each week from the set text, which for that first course was Morris and Linda Tannehill's Market for Liberty. You'd read 2 or 3 chapters, and then write about a page of text critiquing the chapters in response to a particular question that I would pose. You'd show up for discussions, and then you would write a paper at the end of the class. So obviously how much time that involves is going to vary from person to person, but it was enough reading, I think, to make this a legitimate college-level class, but it was not so much reading that I think people would have to feel overwhelmed.
Okay, I know there's been some controversy, at least internet controversy, about the choice of textbook in this. I don't know if you'd like to comment on that at all.
Well, I think that there are obviously different books that might have been appropriate. One thing I would want to emphasize, though, is that anybody who's been in a college class in the humanities or social sciences will know that just because a text is assigned that's no evidence that the instructor or the institution somehow regard the text as infallible. I mean, I regularly assign texts in classes I teach that take positions that are opposed to each other and that take positions that are opposed to positions that I'm known to advocate. And I think that's certainly true here. There are a lot of things I would disagree with the Tannehills about. I think the advantage probably of using that book is that it offers a very concrete proposal about how to solve all kinds of different problems in a stateless society. It's written in a clear and accessible way, and at least when we began delivering the course, it was our understanding that it was available for free online. There's been some controversy about that since. But the fact is that while the Tannehills, I think, are rightly criticized for saying some pretty silly objectivist things, there's also, I think, a kind of humane and a kind of sort of hippie sensibility that they exhibit at key points in the book that I actually think is quite appealing. But even if I didn't think that, I would say it's worthwhile to have a foil to argue with. Just because a text is useful doesn't mean it's useful as a source of revealed truth that everybody has to accept. You know, I think that in some kinds of academic environments, sometimes some kinds of courses in, introductory chemistry or introductory accounting, the textbook really is just a source of truth that the student is expected to memorize and spit back. I'm not suggesting that I think they're sources of truth, but I think that's the way they're treated. That's not true, I think, in serious courses in humanities and social sciences, and it's certainly not the way we're treating this text here. This text is a conversation partner, not the Bible.
Yeah, I get the idea that if you're taking a course with the stateless university, if you're dealing with anarchist people, the last thing they're going to do is keep you from speaking your mind. So if you disagree with the book, it would make even more sense to me to take the course just so when the paper comes up for the chapter, you have something to write about. I mean, it makes for great discussion, just like you said.
So are you saying that this is some kind of effort of education, actual discussion, not just an indoctrination from some kind of text here?
Yeah, you've got to read things you agree with, and you've got to read things that you disagree with, and you've got to discuss it with other people who agree and disagree with you in order to actually hope to grow and to learn and do anything else. So it makes sense to me.
I couldn't have said it better. Because I'm the guest, I'll ramble on for a little bit, but you pretty much said exactly what I hope I would have said in similar circumstances. The reality is that we want you to think. We want you to be very conscious of your own ability to reflect critically on texts and to argue with them. And I tried certainly to pose questions to students that they wrote about each week that weren't designed to prompt them to just say affirming, fawning things about the wonders of the Tannehills, but to really reflect critically and thoughtfully on alternative possibilities, to ask why somebody might reason the way the Tannehills did, and to think about how things might be done differently than the Tannehills proposed that they be done. So a book in any course that we offer is a starting point, never a stopping point.
Okay. I just want to hit on one other point of controversy that it sounds like there's been in anarchist blogging circles about this. The fact that you're charging for knowledge when we should try to make knowledge as free and accessible to all. I mean, I have my own response to that, but I'd like to hear your personal view on that.
Well, I guess number one, I think this really is very inexpensive. It's less expensive than you're going to find at any in any educational environment that I can think of. Number one. Number two, I think that you should be aware that in cases where it seems to be appropriate, we were happy to offer scholarships for in-kind work of various kinds. So if money proved to be a barrier, we certainly weren't trying to exclude people from taking advantage of the curriculum that we were offering. And then I think number three, I certainly don't want to be part of an organization that exploits instructors, that exploits somebody like Micah Gulsky, who's put in an enormous amount of work managing the back end of the C4SS web presence, or Brad Spangler, who's been such a vocal and articulate public face for the center, or or Tom Knapp, who's doing media work on the center's behalf. And the fact is, the center does stuff. Real people do real work. The work doesn't just materialize from nowhere. And while we can't pay people well, we'd certainly like to compensate them for their labor. And this is one way that we can help to do that. So I think that's important if we don't want to start exploiting the people who make the center happen.
Okay, that reminds me of a quote from someone who was kind of deriding the cooperative form of workplace organization. That in a cooperative, everybody exploits each other because they're all bosses. So hopefully, any successful enterprise won't see something like that come up, where people are actually being compensated for their labor. Because I think, as Charles Johnson said in response to one of these criticisms, I don't dig ditches for free either, and I'm putting in real work here. I expect to be compensated for the instructor's time of reading and grading and everything like that.
It also, when the instructor's getting paid, no matter how much it is, it adds an air of legitimacy to the whole thing too. I mean, it's kind of C4SS. I like it a lot because it has good. It has constantly good writing. It has constantly good people involved, and they tend to be consistent. So they're building a name for themselves and they're building a reputation. And if you're dealing with Stateless University, which is affiliated with C4SS, you hope that air of legitimacy would transfer over. I mean, you know what you're getting. You know you're going to get a good product.
And it's I think also just a psychologically apt observation that you're getting a better product. I think if the instructors are compensated, it's also the case that I think even if you're paying a nominal amount, as a student, you're I think more likely to take what's going on in the class seriously if you've paid even that nominal amount to do it, or if you're contributing something in kind. I think we all know that it's easy not to take things very seriously when they're available for free.
I definitely agree with that. I know I wasn't mad that they canceled school until it came to college and I was paying for it. So, you do. And even then, Bile can tell you, it took me a couple years to learn that lesson. But when you are paying for things, there's a much better chance that I will read those chapters and I will turn in that paper if I stand to lose, some of my money and gain nothing for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna segue into another topic. So just finish what you were saying there.
No, I mean, we certainly don't want to take advantage of any student. We don't want to be unfair to any prospective student. We want people on board, and I would just encourage somebody who wants to do the course and any of the courses wants to do the certificate program and who can't who really can't manage the cash. If that really is a problem, please check in with Brad, check in with me. I want to make clear we're not interested here in turning people away. We're just interested in delivering a product and trying to support the center and keep it going.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. We have a few minutes left here still in this segment. So we get a lot of perspectives on anarchism, and why don't we just hear, you'd mentioned a little bit in your summary of what conscience of an anarchism is, but what does anarchism mean to you, and why did you become an anarchist, I guess?
Well, so two great questions. So what anarchism means to me fundamentally is peace and voluntary cooperation. I think those are the key themes for me. Anarchism is the conviction, it seems to me, that peace beats war, peace beats violence, voluntary cooperation can make society work. That's not an inferior second best option to being ruled by Leviathan. It's a vastly superior, preferable option. I guess I got interested in libertarian ideas as an adolescent. I think I'd probably imbibed some fairly right-wing politics from my parents, and I probably saw some flaws in those, but also found myself just trying to sort of make the package of ideas that I'd gotten more consistent, and that drew me into to reading libertarian authors like Hayek and Nozick and Rothbard and Robert Anton Wilson. And then, for various reasons, I think in college, I kind of drifted away from that perspective and just found myself in a really sort of pretty conventional social democratic intellectual world. And I read some people whose ideas were very critical of the state. In particular, as a graduate student, I read the English philosopher Stephen R.L. Clark, who offered, I thought, just a biting critique of state authority. And certainly, at some point, I think I just realized that the state probably didn't have much of a claim to legitimacy. But I put that set of ideas away and didn't really think about them for a while. And then I think found myself coming back to anarchism and to rediscovering some new possibilities for a libertarianism that was simultaneously libertarian and fully left, as I discovered the work of people like Kevin Carson and Roderick Long and Charles Johnson. And it's funny that I can't pinpoint just when I sort of re-entered the libertarian and the anarchist fold, but I certainly just found myself realizing that the state wasn't defensible, and that the thought of a society that people organized peacefully and cooperatively rather than through violence was something that was really exciting to me, and that I realized that I didn't have to give up the concerns that had motivated me toward maybe more conventional lefty politics, even as I rediscovered my libertarian roots. And certainly people like Kevin and Roderick and Charles really helped me to do that, and helped to make a really, I think, powerful synthesis possible that I found immensely attractive.
So it sounds like the whole left libertarian thing, rather than becoming just a pointless division among a small subset of the population, it actually helped bring more people into the libertarian idea. I guess maybe because it completes the libertarian idea, you have not only freedom, but you also have people trying to create a more functional society through consensual methods. Would you say that's fairly accurate?
Oh, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I had, I'd obviously, initially embraced, libertarian ideas without thinking much about those possibilities. And then I think, again, fairly uncritically, probably, just turned instead, in light of, what seemed to be, horrible, pressing, social problems and serious injustices, had turned toward, a much more kind of conventional, mainstream statist left politics. And it was really eye-opening for me when, having already, soured on the authority of the state, but not really being sure what to do about that, I found the work of Kevin and Roderick and Charles and others, and realized that I could have, as it were, my social conscience and my libertarian roots at the same time, and I think that was really positive. And I think you're right that I discovered a way of being politically that I certainly wouldn't have if the left libertarian option hadn't been there.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we are live on thinkingliberty.net, and we are talking to Gary Chartier. He is a professor of law and business ethics. Am I saying that right? And an associate
That's right.
dean? All right,
That's
cool.
right.
And we're talking about stateless university and everything. And we were just talking about left libertarianism and how that actually brings more people to the idea to be more in agreement with the ideas of liberty. And you can find out about that at the Alliance of the Libertarian Left website, all-left.net. So, Gary, one thing we often talk about on this show is actually getting to anarchism. We all love to explain the ideas, the principles, and how we think it might work, but how do we get there from here? We were talking about education a lot. Would you say that's the primary thing we need to do, or are there other ideas that you have?
I think what's important is a coordinated approach that certainly isn't limited to education, but also certainly includes it. I mean, I would also emphasize the importance of pursuing strategies that include building visible alternate communities that are putting on display possibilities that really shake people up imaginatively and help them to see that the status quo isn't the only option. I think the Agris strategy of sort of tunneling underneath the status quo and building an alternate economy is also really important. I'm not opposed to involvement in electoral politics, though I've gotten increasingly cynical about the potential of electoral politics to do a damn thing. I don't think that somebody who tries really hard to achieve something there is, in principle, a bad person, though I do increasingly wonder whether such a person has any sane hope that the system really is finally going to work. My sense is that the authoritarian state is not finally going to collapse because enough anarchists get elected to office. I don't think it's going to collapse because enough anarchists chant in the streets. I think it's going to collapse finally under its own weight. And the real challenge, I think, will be for us to have delegitimated it and created alternate institutions that are ready to step into its place when that happens.
Okay, fantastic. Tennyson just walked into the studio here.
Hey. Oh, yeah, I just walked in.
Hey, Tennyson.
Hey, how you doing, Gary? I wasn't sure how to pronounce the last name, though, because I remember you saying before that it wasn't really a real French name. It was a faux French name. So I'm saying Chartier, Chartier, Charter, I don't know. But it's something. So
well,
good to hear from you.
The name really is a legitimate French name. I'm just a faux Frenchman.
That's what
because
it is.
What I discovered was that an ancestor in the 19th century came over to Quebec from England and decided that it would be a good thing to have a French name, and so changed his name apparently from Carter to Chartier.
Oh.
So I grew up thinking I had French ancestry, and discovered that nope, I was a pretty ordinary Englishman apparently.
Oh, well, that's okay. We all discover something about ourselves sometime, right? Oh.
Indeed.
Yeah. Wait. So. What were you going to say?
Oh, well, Gary was talking about creating visible alternatives, and I think we kind of saw a little bit of that at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which we'll talk about in the second hour. But for now, I think Ryan had something to say for a while.
I was just going to say that Tennyson has been in the studio for 2 minutes, and he insulted the guest. That's all I was going to say.
How was the guest insulted? Were you insulted, Gary?
Not personally, no.
Okay, there we go. So, and
Problem
one of my
solved.
co-hosts handed me a duck with crossed-out eyes. I think
it's a dead rubber ducky
it's a
that you've
symbol.
got.
It's a symbol.
You know,
A dead rubber duck.
the people out there in Radio Land
is that
can't
like
see
getting
it.
a horse head in your deck?
No, well, we don't have any bleeding horse heads. Okay, there's.
All right.
Thank you, Laura.
So, Tennyson, were you saying something else there?
No, because we brought up PorcFest, and of course I'm going through all the thousands of pictures that I took while at PorcFest, and it really is. Everybody seems to have been commenting on this idea. Someone commented on my wall. Actually, it was Natasha Petrova or Natalia Petrova or Nick Manley or whatever Z's going to call it, Z's self. He said that it's like an anarcho village there. It's like a little anarcho village there. And I commented to my sister, said like, no, everything was kind of provided there. We went to a place, there was food provided there. Somebody was making food. Somebody was making a profit on the food. They actually spent money on Jello shots that somebody else had made, and they spent money on a lodging for that time. And there was a whole little economy and community going on there. There was solidarity. People were helping each other out. A point that Kevin Dean made while he was there to a friend of ours, Stacy Litz, saying that no, if you moved here and you became a free stater, everyone would immediately be behind you. It's like joining a big family immediately, and this is that idea of solidarity in a small community idea. People are standing up behind you. If you got arrested, there would be 100 people there at the jail for you. And that's the solidarity in the community that you're kind of looking for if you're going to look for liberty, equality, solidarity. Gary, you going to come by PorcFest one of these days?
I'm quite sure I'll come by one of these days.
All right.
I'm not, I have to say, a big traveler, and I have done actually more traveling this year than I normally do. So it's not that I'm in any way snubbing PorcFest, which I have to say, as Tennyson describes it, just really sounds inspiring and attractive. So I do look forward to being there soon.
It's a good time. It's fun being at a place where you can get Jell-O shots delivered to your campsite.
Yeah.
That's nice. Somebody just shows up with like a pallet of Jell-O shots, and you're like, oh hey, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just people on stage speaking freely, walking around. A lot of people even just walk around with their guns, and no one is afraid. This is something that was pointed out by one of my fellow New Yorkers there who came up there. We saw a guy in a suit, just dressed in a suit, and he was immediately noticed by everybody, wearing a suit, carrying a briefcase, while the guy over there in the corner, rolling the blunt, was not noticed at all. He completely blended in. That guy over there with 2 guns on his leg was not...
He's normal.
He's completely normal. The guy with the suit and the briefcase on, that's what everybody stopped and wondered about that guy. It turned out he was some politician anyway.
Nice.
All right, so we have a little bit of time left here. Gary, something I'd like to talk about before we head into the break is that a lot of times when people think of academics, there's this idea that it's mostly a bunch of left-wing statists, and I don't know. I guess that's the whole academic world is kind of frowned upon by a lot of libertarians for that reason, even though a lot of prominent libertarians have, in fact, been college professors. I just felt like maybe you would have an interesting take on that whole perception.
I'm sure that there are settings that somebody could be in that would be really unfriendly to somebody with the kind of political agenda that I have. But I think that as a general rule, that's not the academic environment I know. Now there's certainly people I know who would find it hard to get past the libertarian label to the substance, and maybe would assume somehow that I was a kind of right-wing shill. But I guess I don't think that that's an across-the-board problem. I think that, indeed, the characteristic feature of academia, as I perceive it, is not so much that it is uniformly left-wing as that it opens up space for people to take much more radical positions than people often do in other social sectors. I think there's less pressure to adopt the mainstream consensus. Now, maybe I'm just naive there. Maybe there really is that kind of pressure, and people in other academic environments can say, look, I can never really express myself freely because I'm just afraid of being, the victim of censure. Maybe that's right, but I guess I find academia, on the whole, to be far more liberating than a lot of alternative environments in which you might function professionally. So I like it. I think your concern's very legitimate, but it doesn't seem to me to be an overwhelming problem.
Okay, so we're gonna go to break in a little bit here. Gary, you have anything else to say, or anybody in the studio want to?
Gary, you got any websites you want to plug or anything like that?
Well, I'm always glad to have people visit my blog, which is Liberalaw, LIBERALAW.blogspot.com.
Could you repeat that, please? Just
sure.
Slowly.
Liberalaw, LIBERALAW, liberalaw.blogspot.com. I'm always happy to plug that. Always happy to plug C4SS. Always happy to plug my friends over at antiwar.com and Antiwar Radio. And the only other thing I want to add again is please check out our courses. Please sign up if you're interested. And whether or not this term is the right term for you to be in Stateless U, please be in touch. Let us know you're out there and join in the conversation at C4SS.
Okay, great. So that's c4ss.org. We were talking to Gary Chartier. So thanks a lot for being on the show, and best wishes with everything.
Good luck.
All right.
Hey, have an excellent evening, and thanks so much for having me on.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you. All right, we're going to take a break here on Thinking Liberty. When we get back, Porcupine Freedom Festival. There's porcupines. There's freedom. It's a festival. It's awesome. Stay here, listen to us talk about it, and maybe we'll talk about some other news items too.
You sound excited about that.
It was a good time.
It was a great
It was very well worth talking.
If you like to gamble, I tell you I'm your man. You win some, lose some, it's all the same to me. The pleasure is to blame. Ain't no difference what you say. I don't shade green. The only card I need is the ace of spades. The ace of spades. Playing for the high road, dancing with the devil, going with the flow. It's all a game to me. 7 or 11, snake eyes watching you. Double up or quit, double strike or split. The ace of spades, the ace of spades. You know I'm going to lose, and gambling's for fools. But that's the way I like it, baby. I don't want to live forever. And don't forget the Joker. Pushing up the ante, I know you got to see me. Read 'em and weep, the dead man's hand again. I see it in your eyes, take one look and die. The only thing you see, you know it's gonna be the ace of spades, the ace of spades.
Shout out for freedom. This
Freedom!
is Thinking Liberty. ThinkingLiberty.net, the wackiest libertarian show
Is that
on
what-
the internet.
Is that what we're calling it? The wackiest? libertarian
Wackiest,
show?
yes.
I don't know.
This
Come with a
show
better
is
term.
actually recorded inside a bouncy castle. That is how wacky we are.
That
What
would
about-
be, okay, see, that would be pretty wacky.
Well, what about Wheels Off Liberty? They're pretty wacky.
I'm not familiar with that show.
Yeah,
That's a
that
good
was,
show.
It kind of came and went under the radar. The Wheels of Liberty. So I think it was on YouTube for a bit, and no, it was pretty good.
Taryn Lupo's on Wheels Off
Taryn
Liberty.
Lupo was on that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what your intro reminds me of, Darian? At Porkfest, how you could be doing anything, right? And you could just occasionally hear somebody go, "Freedom!" And then somebody on the other side of the campground would be like, "Freedom!" Just all the time.
Yep.
You could just randomly shout freedom, and you would get somebody responding and shouting freedom.
So how about that Pork Fest anyway? What was this whole thing anyway?
How about them Yankees anyway?
Well, Porcupine Freedom Festival, right? It's for a big party held by the Free State Project. Was at Rogers Campground, which is in Lancaster,
Yeah,
New
Lancaster,
Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
And that's like what? Was that considered northern New Hampshire?
Yeah,
or-
that's real high up there.
That's real. Well, I always think of Grafton when I think of real high up there.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's high. I think it is higher than Grafton actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know nothing of geography.
If you
You don't teach geography.
if you paid attention while driving up there, I'm pretty sure you drive through Grafton County.
I was drunk for the whole drive. No.
He's a safe
It
driver,
happens.
ladies and gentlemen. The audience, he's not.
I actually drove
through
this guy,
Vermont,
Tennyson,
so
home.
I didn't really drive
He
through. Grafton
totally
County.
drove me home.
Well,
and
even-
he was not tired.
Even as you're going, we went up through Vermont too, but once you get onto, I think it's like 302 or Route 5 from 91, it's still, as you're going through all those small towns and stuff, that's Grafton County, I believe.
Okay.
Oh,
so,
cool.
There we go. So what was so awesome about PorcFest?
What wasn't awesome about PorcFest? It's hard to just say one particular thing. It's just every part of it was wonderful. From the amount of people that were there, and the type of people that were there, and the energy that just kept flowing through the place, and the warmth and the acceptance that was there, the baklava that we continue to
Oh
have.
God,
throughout
the
entire
baklava
time.
that's just like so incredibly sweet and just
Incredible.
It's incredible.
Yes, it's so incredible that he can't even speak ours anymore. But no, I likened it to biting into the fat flesh that sweated honey into your mouth. It was that kind of thing. It was so saturated with sweetness. It was wonderful. George, if you're listening, thanks for all the food. Thanks for all the fish. Not thanks for all the fish. That's another thing I'm thinking about.
So long.
But who else was there? Mama Allie, who cooked everything. Most of it I couldn't eat, but it was pretty good. That biscuit was just enormous, just ginormous. There, I had to combine words, gigantic and enormous, to get how big this biscuit is. It was huge.
You had Agorist Alley too.
It had Agorist Alley over there, or Agora Alley. I don't know what they called it on the map.
I believe
but,
it was Agora Alley on the map.
Agora Alley?
So it's basically the Greek word agora means the open marketplace.
Exactly.
And that's where agorism comes from. 'Cause
That's
it's
right.
an open, free marketplace. And this is kind of what we saw there. It was a free marketplace. People were just selling stuff that they liked and that other people liked, and it created this nice little local economy that just had all kinds of awesome folks just hanging out. You could meet people, talk to them, find great stuff to buy and
Buy
enjoy.
a comic book, get
And
a
you
massage.
didn't even have to use, Federal Reserve notes. You could come to an agreement about what it is exactly you were going to trade with it. No one would demand you trade with Federal Reserve notes. I mean, some people might desire Federal Reserve notes. Some people desired silver. Some people desired gold. Some people wanted to trade for item or service for service. Or other
Some
things like
people
that.
wanted bullets.
Yeah, some people wanted bullets. And
I
it
saw
was,
I saw somebody get his kitchen knives sharpened for 2 pulled pork sandwiches.
Yeah,
I thought that was a good trade.
It was a great trade. It's subjective value and all that other good stuff. While we're in the studio, I'm actually showing people some of the pictures that I took while at PorcFest. This is actually a picture of the supply-demand curve that some very generous host happens to have tattooed on his arm here, and there's a mark out for the equilibrium point. So.
Yeah, so we're looking
must
at a
be
guy's
a-
arm, and he actually has tattooed on his arm supply and demand. And he has the points where the two of them cross. Which I actually took economics in college with Bile, and the only thing I learned is that it's the point where the two things cross. If you're on a
There you
multiple
go.
choice test, and they're like, "Is it this point, the one where they cross, or that point?" Always pick the one where they cross.
It says find X. Here it is.
Yeah, so
That's exactly what. It's got the
there are a lot of fantastic people at PorcFest. It was almost too big to have in just one weekend. Like, I really got to go up there earlier because there was just so many people there. And
Tuesdays.
I wanted to hang out with
Tuesdays?
everybody, but I couldn't.
Well, I'm going to be going back up to Grafton.
Yeah, you're going to Grafton.
And I'm going to go see Agorist Acres and go to the Grafton Gulch Market.
Yeah.
And what else do they got going on up there? I'm going to head down to the charter school, the Scholars Academy.
Yeah, you're going
Con-
to my friend Kate Richards' place. So.
Yeah, contacted them.
Tell me how it looks. No, I gave money there, so I guess I have to have some responsibility.
All right, yeah, they're going to give me a tour. They said, which should be kind of cool.
All right.
Yeah, and
what
some
else?
of the folks that were there, Zach Fix is in the chat room now.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
couch activist. So, hello to Zach and the couch activist, and to Garland, and
should we-
also
should
to
we name the
Anarcho
couch-
Tom, who hopefully we'll see him.
Should we name
somewhere.
the couch activist, or just say who it is?
No.
No. What? All right, the couch activist. I don't know. What do you want us to say your name or not? Or
It's Nick.
Yes, it is Nick.
Oh,
But
well, now the cat's out of the
now
bag.
we know exactly who
Our
it is.
number one
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah. And Nick gave a pretty good rant at the what's that one called? I don't know.
Soapbox
if any,
Idol.
The Soapbox Idol. Were any of you actually at Soapbox Idol?
I hardly
Yeah, you
ever
missed
went
it.
down to the main area.
Yeah.
You know, that big bowl area?
I don't know
Like,
what the hell
I
you're
ate
doing
a
at
gyro
any of
in
the
there
events.
and then just
Yeah.
left. Like,
Yeah.
that was all that I did. I was at, like, Alt Expo
Yeah.
a lot of the time, just up in people's campgrounds.
Exactly. What the hell were you doing that whole time? I never saw you. You and a bunch of the other New York folks. I didn't know where anybody was. I was down there shooting naked guys on that stage.
See, that's why I think we need to. It would be awesome to get like a group of campsites. So it's like, you know, if I'm not in my campsite, I might be hanging out with Ryan or Zach or someone. So like, at least you'd know the general area where I probably would be.
Yeah, we need to get you on the GPS, but then again, the 3G and other stuff might not be working. See, we're going to get you a one of those walkie-talkie handsets at all the fashionable
Ankle
porks
bracelet?
have to be.
Ankle bracelet?
He's going to get one of those sooner or later.
Why am I getting tagged here? Like,
Because you're you. That's why.
I think it's a
I'm
good
gonna keep
idea. We
pointing
need to
at
keep
you.
track of you. You are a radical.
Exactly.
I am a very important asset to Thinking Liberty. You have to make sure I don't get in trouble.
You're a very important ass.
Zach Fix asks, why would you put the cat in a bag? Good question.
Cats love bags. They'll just go in there themselves, you know.
I don't
That's
know.
true.
Let me ask a cat owner over here. Lori, what do you think?
My cats are cuckoo for bags. They love bags.
How about boxes? Do they like boxes?
They like box too. We actually have a giant box on the floor, and this morning Ozzy thought it was for him. He was trying to like claw through the tape to get into the ottoman.
How
that I'm
many?
returning.
What would you be willing to accept in trade for your cats?
You have bullets?
If you had to determine the subject, okay, how many bullets and what caliber?
I can get new cats. So you know,
You know,
you can just keep
45
them.
ACPs. It's pretty
They
expensive.
poop a lot though.
They poop a lot. Bullets don't poop.
They don't.
Not yet.
They don't purr when you pet them, though.
That's true. That's true.
If you pet them hard enough, they go off, though.
If you're petting bullets in your basement right now,
Oh.
that's kind of creepy.
You know what's also kind of creepy when people like talk about their guns like online when it's just totally like non sequitur. Like you could just be discussing something and be like, "Oh, by the way, I'll be oiling my guns."
Who says that?
Well, apparently you're not hanging out in the right chat rooms. Then
Whoa.
you get people who say that all the time.
Oh, okay. What was it? What was the word you used to describe that again? Non
sequitur.
Is that what you said? Really?
I don't know.
Did you
Why don't we
mispronounce
talk
it?
about what Tennyson left in Ryan's van?
Oh, okay,
Oh,
all
that
right.
thing.
So now that we've got a lot of people in the chat room, are you ready for the big reveal of things Tennyson left in my van? All right. Sure, yeah, you got sound effects
get
ready?
those
we
sound
don't
effects.
have any sound effects for you.
We definitely need some sound effects for this.
You have to
so,
sit and listen.
So I gave Tennyson a ride home from Porkfest, and you should
In
know
the
that.
creepy molester van.
Yes, in my very creepy, very large blue van.
It wasn't really. It's not really that creepy of a van. It's just we like making fun of you, so we just find something.
You know,
about
you're
you
gonna
just
end up
any
in the
opportunity.
van.
You can fit a lot of children in that van.
It's less a kid toucher van and more like a tard wagon.
I think
but-
it's more like guy who lives in a van and like works out of a van, and his entire life is based in a van.
You
Kind
know,
of van.
Tard
there will be
children.
plenty of time for smoking doobies when you live in a van down by the river. All right, loves his laptop.
Wait.
All right, are you ready there, Lori? Okay, the first thing Tennyson left in my van: a spindle of DVDs. All right. The second thing that Tennyson left in my van: a book. No. Then it doesn't sound as bad. The third thing,
Although the title could be interesting if taken
it's
out
called
of context.
A Fire Upon the Deep. The third thing Tennyson left in my van: cocoa butter, some lotion. Oh, it's oil gel. And the fourth thing, and the last thing I'm going to say on here that Tennyson left in my van was tissues.
Yes.
So the question, Tennyson, is what were you doing at Porkfests during those lonely evenings?
What was I doing? There were no lonely evenings.
There's-
for me, but
Well, you've got tissues, a book, DVDs, and some lotion.
he had
So-
like the Love Shack in the tent.
I will say this. Around the second day, I realized that I did not bring soap to take showers with. I brought like 20 tank tops, but I forgot soap. So I walk
See,
into...
that's like I was thinking. You know, I had a lot of extra shirts. Maybe I just shouldn't shower or wear deodorant and just keep changing shirts.
That's actually called the Anarchist Book Fair, where you just change shirts and you don't shower or
So-
use deodorant.
So I
People get extra shirts at Anarchist Book Fair?
They get
I
them from me.
stumble. No, wait, this is good. It's about you. So I stumble into Tennyson, and he hears me complain about how I don't have any soap. The guy whips out a gallon of lotion and body butter and soap.
Yes.
Did you even use all of it?
No, I was ready to move in. That's how it was going.
You had a lot of tissues, too, if I do recall. And you also
I
had,
did.
like, hotel soap.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was the kind of soap that you'd buy from the Costco. It was a Kirkland brand soap.
How dirty are you?
Should I answer that seriously? But
You should have seen Tennyson's tent at this
Yeah.
thing too. It was like a cabin. How many people fit in that tent? 10?
yeah, at least like 11 people could fit.
And
in that
it
tent.
was sectioned off, too.
It's got separate rooms. Tennyson was calling it the Lovenasium, as I recall.
I don't recall that.
I did not get an invite into the Lovenasium.
Did you went inside the tent that one time?
No, I looked. I wouldn't go
Oh, you
inside.
okay? Yeah.
Go inside.
It was a good time inside.
I knew what
there.
would happen if I went inside.
Your choices
you
are
don't.
Tennyson's Giant Lovenasium or My Scary Van. Those are your choices.
Nobody
I'd
knows
like to try
what
my
goes
luck
on
with a
inside
van,
that tent.
please.
Is the van also a Lovenasium of sorts? Like a rolling Lovenasium?
You sure it was rocking? Should we come a knocking? Is that how it goes?
If that van rocked too much, the rust in the bottom quarter panels would just all fall out.
Talk about quarter panels again. You know that's hot.
Quarter panels. Oh, I love automotive talk.
There were cuts on the bottom of this van as if it was in like the movie Grease. When those guys took the razors out.
So somebody was coming along next to it and just had a big race going through what is it, Franconia Notch Forest on the way up. Another thing that I found very amusing, Franconia Notch. Notch. Yep. All right.
So
Everyone
back-
likes the notches up there. So you don't want to go north of the notches too often. You like that? You hit that notch? Yeah. Hit it
Oh
real
God.
hard. All right, so
So what's going on with PorkFest? I wrote a big Center for a Stateless Society feature on it.
That was
Basically-
nice. I liked it.
it was wonderful.
cool. So
Oh wait, hold on. What was that?
I didn't read it.
Well, how about we get a summary from the person who wrote it? Which this is just as good as actually reading a thing, isn't it?
That's true. It's like reading for the illiterate.
I could read it dramatically too.
That's what I want you to
Like,
do. I want it in your "Welcome to Thinking Liberty. Don't let anyone stand on your neck" voice.
And now a dramatic reading of whatever the hell he wrote.
To alter and abolish an anarchist at PorkFest 2010. my levels are just out of control now.
He doesn't even have it in front of him. He just has it memorized.
But that was just the title. Of course, I remember.
okay.
It took me a second, but I remembered the title. But basically, it was just like about I started off just a little introduction on PorkFest, but basically the idea is that, like, this is like the future almost when you're looking at it. Like a future of freedom. You can kind of get a taste of
Foundation.
this. Not a foundation.
Future Freedom Foundation.
Future Freedom Foundation is decent, but PorkFest, like, you have alternatives just being shown in front of you. This
know.
is just the way the whole thing was. There was no, you weren't like even really thinking of the state so much. There was,
It
it
kind of
was
disappeared, except when the cops rolled through that one time, and then everybody radioed immediately. Cops coming through, and we knew we tracked them around that entire place, watching what they were going to do. They went up to the top where there wasn't as much, things that may draw their attention going
Chicanery.
on. Yes, chicanery and shenanigans and tomfoolery and hijinks and all those things. But
What day was that they rolled through?
yeah. I didn't even
them.
see any cops.
They came through on what was it? Tuesday? Was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Because they came early. I've been there since Monday, and it was there early on in my trip that they came by. Look- Oh, okay. Wait,
Yeah, I think they came in later too. Someone
Later?
said that that actually the campground is part of their route on.
Oh,
on
so they
vacations.
normally do that.
Yeah.
Yes, as one of the commenters on the thing says 5-0. That's right, exactly. The 5-0 were there, and we were on the scene. So we actually had counter power going to whatever it is that they were going to do. So no matter what it is was going to happen with us and the police, either we out-armed them, out-gunned them, we out-communicated them.
We just outed them.
Yeah, we outed them immediately.
Darian
We knew
had
exactly
his
who they
giant gray boombox blasting "Fuck the Police"
Exactly.
with his like 17,000 D-cell batteries in it.
And I was on a skateboard while I was
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
this, too.
No, that's just escape. You got the high top fade and everything, and the gold rope chain.
You were calling crack Kane, all kinds of exciting things.
Waiting for Pookie to come back, but you know he wasn't coming back. Yeah. Okay, so getting off topic.
Yeah,
here.
but I mean that's great because they even have a number
All right.
to dial for police.
Zach says it was Thursday night. 2 cars showed up. All right, I only saw the one car
that's
because
interesting.
I kept walking.
I got there Thursday night at like midnight,
Yeah.
and then set up my campsite in the wrong spot
That
and
was
moved
funny.
it in the middle of the night.
So I just happened
Nice.
to kind of run into you in the middle of the night, walking back in the dark. I was like, "Wait a minute! I see Darian over there in that hat," and yeah, there it was you. What else? It was just things were spontaneously happening there, undirected.
There was a
being
dance
party
party too.
There was a big gay dance party, and then they were going to use the phrase "big gay" there because that's exactly what it was called. And it was out in the corner. I got plenty of pictures here of there's some wardrobe malfunctions that people enjoyed. There was Carson Eastman, Lou Eastman's son, because he's pretty awesome.
There was what else?
I mean, just
caught up
the
again.
whole way this thing went down. I mean, it was spontaneous organization. People came to a big area, and we just kind of built what we wanted to see of the event. We all had something to contribute, even if it was just conversation. I did an anarchist history presentation, which is now online thanks to Bio. You can check out the entire thing at DarianWarden.com/blog.
There's an awesome announcement about how the toilets work again.
Oh, yes.
In the middle of it. That was
Yes.
very exciting. I remember that's the point where I am at in watching it. I think I'm on the second YouTube video of watching it.
Toilets are back. Yes.
They are
Well, for a
functional.
lot of the anarchist history, the toilets weren't working, and that's why people were getting so angry. The system just wasn't working.
Well,
That's
they-
why
they had
Bakunin's
better-
beard is so badass.
They had better alternatives at the time anyway, so they were prepared for those broken toilets.
We've
and
got
fact that
alternatives
they-
now. We've got Humanure, and
Humanure?
We can talk about all this stuff. Hey, you want to talk about composting human feces?
I
mean,
you've got some
I'm
experience.
prepared.
All right, let's talk about composting human
How
feces.
about we not talk about any of that at all, unless we get Kevin Carson on, because you'll talk about that. No.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So we're going to get Kevin Carson on one of these weeks. I'm just going to have to keep talking to him and buttering him up, and so he'll get on here when.
Whoa.
Maybe you should
He's
bring him
there.
to a big gay dance party.
Not cocoa buttering him up, but
I'm just based on what you left in my van.
Yeah.
This is what I think about it.
Tennyson is just like the most clean dude.
yeah. I'm going. Oh, I also had bug spray in here. How?
Yeah, but that doesn't sound nearly sexual.
And I had a flashlight.
So he
That
had
kinda
other
does.
items besides
I had
what
a-
you
No,
said.
no.
Just
I had a double header flashlight over here too. So.
Thinking Liberty, where we edit the things we say.
Oh wait, let me check this gel oil. Did you use some of this on Megan?
I didn't use any of that.
Megan.
Do you know what was really cool though about riding back with
In
you
Megan.
with this?
all right, sorry, go.
About riding back with you, Tennyson, was the music. We
Yeah.
had the opportunity to listen to lots of music. So
Yeah.
you introduced me to some interesting groups, including the Flowbots,
Yeah.
which I did some more research on, and I listened to some more. And
Yeah.
good stuff. Very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, they've got a really good rhythm to them, and I enjoyed the fact that they use new instruments, not new instruments, but they introduce it to popular music like violin and trumpets, which you don't really hear too much in rock, rap, or stuff like that.
Yep, and their music tends to be pretty political, at least
Yeah.
from what I've seen, and they've got some good views on it. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with everything they say,
Exactly.
but they're headed in the right direction.
Someone else who commented on the Flowbots was kind of recently was Amber and Zyra, because they do A to Z show out in California, and like they know of the Flowbots and they've talked about them before, and they know that they disagree with them, but I think that I disagree with most of the world. The fact that they even get this far in this much agreement is just astounding. So I mean, I don't have that much bad to say about them. I wish I could maybe talk to them and talk them out of their crazy statist socialist nonsense, but they could be stateless socialist nonsense. But
That's true. I
Yeah.
mean, the community building part of it's all good.
absolutely.
And speaking of community building, one of the cool things I had at PorkFest, I don't know if you've ever gone to somewhere rural where they have they have like these signs that say "State Police, call 911" or whatever. Well, at PorkFest they had signs that said police state. Call Pork 411. And Pork 411 is basically the system where you can call and then report something. It'll go to a recorded message, which people can subscribe to in a number of ways. So, for example, if there are police harassing someone, you can call Pork 411. If you're in trouble, you can call Pork 411. And it's kind of
If you
a
need somebody
high-tech,
to,
like, mutual aid system, almost.
If you need somebody to help you move beer, you can call Pork 411.
That sounds about right.
That you hear those occasionally.
If you need someone to try and stop that person who's trying to break down your door in the middle of the night, yeah, you probably call Pork 411.
There you go.
And it's this whole like spirit of mutual aid. It was really there. People don't think this a lot about market anarchists, and of course, most of the people at PorkFest are more free market oriented rather than say social anarchists or whatever.
Right.
But and I guess that this isn't really part of the market anarchist ideology as much as it is, and I think it really should be because it is practiced. Anytime you go to PorkFest and somebody's walking by and they see you setting up your tent, they'll try to help you. They might be too drunk to be of any use, but they will try to help you.
He will try to help you. See, I got help putting up my tent. I was just kind of there, and somebody walked by. It was Hunter, by the way, who also helped hook up the whole thing with the pictures later on. And we're going to be giving the money that people pay for the group shot towards charity, and it's going to be some good stuff. But no, it was just he came by and helped me put up that tent. It was like nothing, and then he just walked on, and that was it.
Walked on down the line with all your extra tent poles that he stole.
And then he's going to sell them on the free market.
On the free black
and make
market.
profit.
Your sinful, dirty profits.
All right, so what wasn't good about PorkFest? Anything that
was too short.
Yeah, that was really the thing. I should have gone up earlier because
You really
there
should've.
were so many people
What were you
there that
doing?
I would have liked to talk to more, but I was just having such a good time, and I wasn't like running around looking for people. And it was almost like it's like a city in the campground almost. There's just a whole town basically of people interested in liberty. You don't see that.
It was a lot better than last year's too. I think last year's was good in a lot
because
of
I didn't
ways.
have swine flu.
Well, that's true, but I ended up with the pink eye when I came back, so who knows? But last year's was good for a lot of other reasons, but this year with the alley,
I think that was the clincher.
That was it. I think that was great. And you had all the food being sold in other areas. I think the only downside to this year was maybe because the rain, that the weather didn't work with us
worked
too
for
much.
me.
Well, it was raining. I packed for last year's weather, so
Wasn't it raining last year a lot?
I don't remember. It rained like at night once.
You're not on the mic.
Oh yeah, I'm not even talking on mic here, so we should probably get a dedicated mic for Laura. Just a suggestion. But yeah, it rained quite a bit at some points, and it rolled down the hill. And I think it knocked a couple of things that were in the way out of the way. This year, it rained kind of heavy that Thursday night. It was a little cold, a little wet, and yeah. Wait. Oh, look. Okay, there are my levels. I'm trying to get it up. All right, now I forget it. But either way, so the rain was there. It was kind of cold, and then it got really boiling hot in the daytime. So all that cold just disappeared. So there you go. Weather.
I think if anyone's ever contemplating what type of event to come up for at New Hampshire, I think PorkFest is the best starting point. I think Liberty Forum's good. It's a little stuffy, but
there's just not as much opportunity
Right.
to do awesome stuff in Liberty Forum.
I mean, you
because
meet a lot
it's
of
in a
people
hotel.
both ways, but
That's what she said, both ways. Yeah, so I got to throw that in. But I my first event in New Hampshire was actually Liberty Forum, and I've always got a deep, abiding love for Liberty Forum. And I enjoy PorkFest. I really love PorkFest, but I really, really love Liberty Forum too. There's time, there's a hotel room, and you sit down and you can listen and talk to some of these people that you have never met before. You've seen them or read their stuff online. And if you're really interested in all that intellectual stuff, then yeah, that's the thing that I really love.
I'd like Liberty Forum more if it was held outdoors and those people you're talking to were drunker. So I like PorkFest.
I mean, there's good parts to each one. I guess depending on what you're looking for. I don't know. I'm a big PorkFest fan.
Well, one point that I brought up in my Center for a Stateless Society article was that when you have this agora, this functioning open marketplace, where really anything you want to do that doesn't infringe on someone's rights is okay to do, it's really fun, and it just shows how awesome a free society can be. And I think that is going to get a lot more interest in in libertarian ideas than some stuffy presentations. I mean, sure, I made some, a long lecture and stuff, and people enjoyed it, but really what I think what's going to attract people is when you show them how great this really is. And when you talk to somebody who's just kind of into libertarian ideas but not willing to go all the way up to New Hampshire, when you tell them how awesome it was that you could just get these, gyros and baklava and homemade ice cream, and anywhere you go there is something fun going on, that's what really gets people in.
Yeah, and you can just shoot the shit around the campfire and talk about whatever you want. There's always a bunch of campfires going on at different spots throughout the campground. All sorts of different people you can talk to. People tend to be very inviting.
Right.
You get to see what people are like as neighbors. My campsite was next to who was I next to? I was next to Ian Freeman. So I saw him occasionally. Very nice, and we could talk. And I was next to Sam too, and everybody's just very friendly. There's a whole lot of discussion to be had, as opposed to a whole lot of lecture going on.
Right. Who was your campsite near? Did you know anybody?
We were next to Darian, and then who was in front of us? We had Jim,
I
didn't
don't
we? Off the diagonal. Jim,
I don't know.
You don't know.
Well, there's
I don't
some
know.
Philly folks around
Yeah.
you too.
But I think when you get a bunch of people in an area that are all like-minded, they want to meet people and they want to talk to other people. They want to expand their circle, because they may come from an area where there isn't a lot of people that share the same values that they do. So it's very exciting for them to get out there.
So I think what we can take away from this is that we really need to focus on the social aspect, the alternatives aspect of activism, not just the ideas, but actually creating a space where we can put the ideas into play and kind of experiment with them.
Demonstrate. That's why I think the Grafton Gulch idea is so good, because you've basically got somebody setting up what you had at Agora Alley, twice a week. So I think it's Tuesdays and Sunday. There's a space where you can go, you can sell things, you can trade things, you can barter, you can do whatever you want to do in an area where you've got a lot of people moving to that area, and they are looking to trade, and they're looking to acquire different things. I think that holds a lot of promise.
So is it kind of like a combination flea market, meet and greet, and like open festival? And
you got it. Like
maybe
flea market, swap meet. When I think about the types of marketplaces I like the best, they're all that kind of, informal. Here's what I've got. Would you like to buy it? All right. How much? Well, I'll give you this instead for it. These kind of things. I think it fosters strong social links.
And yeah, and with PorkFest, like I said, you have this thriving local economy, and there's also the mutual aid aspect, and just the idea that we're all want to create a free society here, so we're all acting in ways that are conducive to that. Nobody's really trying to get in fights with anyone. Everybody's getting along peacefully, and that is that's great. We have spaces where people want to barter, spaces where people can just talk and describe ideas, or just play around a fire or something. And this is really great because this what you mentioned with the marketplace, I think that this is a good way to show that trade is really something that can bring people together. It doesn't have to be some authoritarians dominating a long supply chain and every worker is just a cog in a machine that has no say, and they probably don't get any respect from anyone. This is actually a functioning society, and it's great to see trade being a part of that, because we all need to get different stuff from different people. And I think this was a great idea, a great showing of putting that into action, where trade and society and markets and ideas and mutual aid and fun just go together.
True. Do you want a tough question out of the blue from the chat room? I'm looking at John. John wants to know what's the difference between a collectivist anarchist and an individualist anarchist. He's asking, what is a social anarchist? Zach used the term. Anybody want to field that? Nobody does.
All right. Well, well, I did talk about this in my history of anarchism presentation, but essentially, an individualist anarchist is someone who every I'm gonna start off this way. Actually, every form of anarchism has both individualist aspects and collective aspects. It's all about fostering the autonomy of the individual, and in that sense, every different school of anarchism can be seen as just a strategy towards this goal of ultimate individual freedom. How are you going to guarantee that? For individualist anarchists, they kind of focus on the individual as the basic unit, and whatever types of organizations the individual does are good. And when there's not state privilege, individuals functioning as proprietors or within cooperatives, that's all good. With collectivist anarchists,
hold on. Individualist anarchists. Give us a name.
Well, you have Benjamin Tucker.
Okay.
Would be
Benjamin Tucker.
one. I consider myself an individualist anarchist.
Okay, so our examples are Benjamin Tucker and Darian Ward. All right, move on.
Well, I think generally American anarchists or libertarians in America tend to be individualist, and European anarchists oftentimes are more social anarchists.
In general, that's how it was, but there was a lot of back and forth, and social anarchism
Henry David
certainly
Thoreau.
became a major force within America, and there were individualist anarchists within Europe. They often did stuff with other anarchists. They had anarchist propaganda groups and things like that. But yeah, with collectivist anarchists, they don't like the idea of trade and monetary exchange, so they generally are focused on creating a consensual society that does not involve money, does not involve any kind of working for another person, and they think of economies as based on labor federations, either exchanging or gifting with each other, but not so much on money or exchange, which I think money and exchange are going to be a good part of a free, they're going to be parts of a free society. I don't think monetary wealth and status are going to be nearly as important, but I think a functioning society in general will have these kinds of things.
All right.
And I think that what we were saying about the Agora Alley, that's a good example of how money plays into a free society.
Give us an
free
example
individuals.
for a collectivist anarchist.
Well, good ones to look up would be Fyodor Kropotkin. He explained a real lot.
I actually bought a Kropotkin book off of Jack in the Alt Expo tent.
Conquest of Bread.
No, I already read Conquest of Bread. This was Anarchist Morality, I think it's called. Very thin book.
Okay.
But Jack's selling books for, he got some from...
That's interesting. Very thin book.
Very thin book.
He's morality. Very thin book.
Yeah, nice and easy. He's selling books for Black Cat Press. I think they gave him some copies of books to sell, which was
Okay.
nice.
Okay, and I'd like to point out that I think if you want to create kind of a division of anarchists, would be social anarchists on one end and maybe market anarchists on the other, and then there's a lot of overlap in between. So individualist anarchists, often considered social anarchists, even though they usually have some kind of idea of a marketplace, kind of monetary exchange. But a market anarchist would also include, for example, more anarcho-capitalist type person who believes believes in free exchange, but they're not so focused on being as against hierarchy as being against I guess against the idea of capitalism as being domination by capitalists that your individualist anarchists would do. So there's a lot of labels out there, and I think that libertyactivism.info is a great place to look these things up. And some names, Benjamin Tucker would be a great individualist anarchist. Voltairine de Cleyre was into anarchism without adjectives, but
That mixes it all up.
she's good. Dyer Lum and Proudhon would be Pierre-Joseph Proudhon would be good on, say, mutualism.
What about like Chomsky? Where does he fall?
He's more of a collectivist anarchist, if anything, but
He's kind of an anarchy someday kind of
he's-
guy.
it's his Augustinian anarchism, as Dr. Long would say. But no, what about Anselm Bellegarrigue? He's another one.
He's a good one.
He's a very
He's
good one.
generally considered to be in the individualist.
That's correct.
Individualist camp, I guess.
A European individualist anarchist.
So there's him.
John's got a good title right here. He calls himself a "Leave Me the Fuckalonian,"
There you
which
go.
is a I can respect that.
Well, we want to be left alone from authoritarians, but social organization and trying to bring consensual relations into society is a major part of anarchism. And
But keyword there, consensual. So if he wants to be a "Leave Me the Fuckalonian" and go out and live somewhere and not interact, he's welcome to.
yeah, but that's not really going to get society towards anarchism. So you're not really going to see anarchy by that kind of behavior, and the state's not going to leave you alone unless there are other people who.
What if everybody
Makes
chooses to be left alone though, and everybody walks out into some national park and stakes a claim and follows the "Leave Me the Fuckalonian" doctrine?
You could do that, but I think it's more likely that people are going to choose to associate.
I don't think it would
in
happen,
large
but if
numbers.
it did happen, there'd be a lot more beards and campfires.
This is true.
I don't think that would be too bad of a thing.
Speaking of beards, any
Speaking of beards,
any particular anarchists we want to talk about while we're here?
I thought you were going to say, no, wives of convenience. Speaking of beards there. But,
What?
oh, you don't even know what that term means, do you? All right, so
Oh,
more...
that kind of beard. What the hell is this guy talking?
It's like, give it a few seconds, you'll
come
get
on
it,
now,
you'll
come
get
on
it.
now, you can pick it up.
All right, so more anarchists? How many more anarchists do we need to talk about here? We got to just live our lives as
I
we
think we've
do
hit a lot.
right now.
How about living anarchists?
There you go.
That's a tough category.
Living anarchists?
Yeah, like other than Darian Warden, who
Other
likes to
than-
talk about himself as
I mean,
an example of an
Darren
individualist
Warden,
anarchist.
Darren Warden is the
Whatever.
individualist
Like
anarchist who exists.
I am an individualist anarchist, so I just threw that out there.
He's not only just an individualist anarchist, he's the living modern example of an individualist anarchist.
No, I'm not.
Right. Yes, he would feign humility right now. But no, he's pretty awesome. He's pretty awesome. So Charles Johnson, he also talks about himself as an individualist anarchist.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Like Roderick Long, he's still alive, even though he's working for the state, sort of. As Jim Davidson will incessantly point out.
Roderick Long, Austro-Athenian
really-
Empire, right?
Yes, Austro-Athenian
Now,
Empire,
is
AAE block.
Roderick Long really working for the state, or is he
Parts.
working within the state? I mean, he's working for his own interests, and his interests involve anarchism.
That's
so,
true. It seems like, the state directs a lot of what education could be, puts the money that way, takes money from other people, gives it there, says what exactly will be education through its accreditation process. It seems like, you're kind of working for the state. He may be working against the state at the same time, which exonerates him, in my opinion, but... I think the people who work for schools are working for the state in at least some degree. Who else do we have out there?
Sean
Gary
Wilbur
Chartier-
is
Gary Chartier.
Yeah, we were just talking about Gary
C'est
Chartier.
Monsieur Chartier. He's an anarchist. Let's see. Who else is there?
Sean Wilbur, as
Sean
mentioned
Wilbur.
there. Brad Spangler,
Yeah.
a good one.
Good old Brad.
There's what kind of more
David
collectivist anarchists?
David
are
Friedman.
out
David
there?
Friedman, yeah.
He's a hopeful anarchist. He's not.
Kevin
Yeah,
Carson.
he doesn't hate the state in the way that a lot of other anarchists hate the state. Kevin Carson, who should be on the show sometime.
Someday.
One of
Someday.
these days. Who else was there?
Well, we were talking to more.
wasn't
These
it-
are more market
Wasn't
anarchists. Who's,
yeah, we are living.
I know.
collectivist anarchists as
Rand
well?
Paul.
He,
Ducks.
He just ducked a dagger.
Ducks the
over
chair
there.
thrown at me.
There was a dagger thrown from someone's eyes, so he just ducked. Who else? Another anarchist. How about a social anarchist that's living right now, other than say like Chomsky? And Zen is now dead, so
Huh.
Let's see.
Do we know any
Where's
social
where's
anarchists?
where's Roseanne fit in?
Well,
Roseanne?
there's
Roseanne Barr?
No, not Roseanne. What's it? Is Roseanne?
John Zerzan.
Oh,
yeah,
Zerzan. Zerzan. He's
Zerzan. Sorry.
yes, he's a primitivist. So
So where's he fit in?
he on the
Leave me
social
the
anarchist side.
fuckalonian.
yeah, he's more like that. But I think he thinks that ancient societies would tend to be more collectivist than anything. But
Okay.
the individual would have a lot more free time to himself, subtracted from all the distractions of modern life and modern logic and thought. So,
Okay, I can
Okay,
get behind
so
that.
some other modern social anarchists.
no,
Ian,
Bob Black. No,
Bob
is it?
Black, Bob
Yeah.
Barr. No, I'm.
certainly not Bob Barr.
Who's the
Certainly not
anarchist
Babar over
FAQ guy? Is that Ian McKay?
Yeah, Ian McKay.
Ian
of course.
McKay.
Yeah.
He's he does some good stuff.
What about the guy who runs the Porcupine blog, Larry Gambon?
Come on, yeah,
Yeah,
and
so-
of course, there's the infoshop.org. It's
Yeah.
run a lot by Chuck Munson. So,
Yeah, Chuck.
they're out there.
We know people's names.
So we don't just we're not just in an individualist anarchist market anarchist echo chamber here. We know these other people.
It's interesting to go to the anarchist book fair because that's where you go and the people are like, "Oh my god, you're an individualist anarchist."
Like
You're
you
just
guys
like,
actually exist.
yeah, exactly. You're like, yeah, have a pamphlet, man.
So I think that actually points to a major flaw with all anarchists, movements that are out there. They're so insular. It's great to associate with people you like and work with them on a day-to-day basis and build the new world in the shell of the old, but you still have to venture out into the old world and kind of bring more people in. And when you just have not even talked to other types of anarchists and people who have other political beliefs, it's just very hard to move forward from there. You got to bring more people into the idea.
That's something that's cool about PorkFest, because at PorkFest you get anarchists talking to constitutionalists, talking to minarchists, talking to small government Republicans. I mean, there's all kinds of people you can talk to at PorkFest.
Speaking of which, there was an interesting conversation between a small government type and our friend ANCAP Man.
Oh yes.
Apparently, their children were playing together, and so ANCAP Man's wife walked over to talk to these Republicans or whatever they were, and they were behind the Keene area of the. They were on the other side of where you were, Ryan, in that particular block.
Yep.
And I don't know how it came up, but the woman says something like, "Yeah, these people behind us, these goofy, crazy people, they got some weird ideas." And so ANCAP Man, having not holding anything back, just goes, "Were some of those goofy, crazy people?" And she was just like, and then changed the subject.
Oh, jeez.
It's interesting when you actually meet some of those people that you'd like to dismiss out of hand as just goofy, crazy people, but then you sit and talk to them not knowing that they are, because they don't really seem goofy or crazy at all, do they? And
Right.
there they go.
ANCAP Man and his wife, I guess, middle class looking family with a
Yeah.
kid, of course they couldn't be these goofy, crazy types.
Of course.
Anarchists.
I met was it Joe Fontana as well, who's another individualist anarchist. I think he's libertarian left as well, and they just seem like regular folks, people who go to work in the business world, write some software or whatever it is they do, or trade some funds if that's what people do. I don't know what they do. They live in a house, wear glasses, drive cars.
Did you say wear glasses?
Yeah. Just like me.
That's pretty
amazing.
I'm wearing glasses right now, and a lot of my references are actually to me, because
what
I
would
like
you say
me.
to people who are like, okay, well, this kind of like being so normal, that's still propping up the current society, and that we shouldn't care about looking respectable because we should be building the new society and getting people along those
Well,
lines.
no, I like looking respectable no matter what. So even if I am going to be in this new society, I'm going to try and at least look the part. No, not their part, but I'm trying to look well.
You need to find some way of fostering a dialogue. So even if you look like a total weirdo, like I strive to look, you got to make up for it. You got to make up for it in charisma. Like I had a good discussion with some small government Republicans at the one pot cook-off. And, I found a great way to foster discussion with them was basically to say, well, what do you think the role of government should be? And, start off always with a compliment. Hey, your food is delicious. And secondly, what do you think the role of government should be? And listen to them. Not a lot of people listen.
Yeah, asking and listening, I think, is a good thing to do.
It's a good way to do it.
It's to just assume why somebody believes what they believe. I don't think you're going to have a good conversation from there. You got to see, like, what is this person's actual concern? What are these people's actual concerns? So we're on Thinking Liberty here. We're talking about just trying to bring more people into anarchism. How can we spread these ideas?
I'm reading the fascinating comments that are appearing here in the chat room here, and I'm seeing my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and oh wait, no, that's not part of it. It's I'm okay. So Zach Fix is saying that he lives in a house. He wears glasses as well, but he doesn't really strive to look respectable at all.
So I think that there is kind of this problem of conformity when people are like trying to look opposite to what's considered respectful. Maybe you like dressing up, looking nice, and maybe that gives you a tactical advantage sometimes.
Certainly does.
Why not?
It depends where you're going. Fit the part. I mean, if you wear a suit to the anarchist book fair, you're a Fed. But and a bad Fed at that.
Yeah, it's like you'd be you'd just be very interesting. So people would come up and talk to you, and you'd better have something to say, and people come up and talk to you.
That's true.
Yeah, I was thinking of Porkfest, of course. Where Curtis is wearing that shirt that says "I'm a Fed."
Yeah,
and so I said, "Ha ha, you slipped up." I knew you'd finally slip up one day. Yeah, so that has nothing to do with the thing that we're going for.
All right. Anyway, what were we talking about? We're talking about Porkfest.
I don't know what
we were talking about. Porkfest. We were talking about kind of bringing more people into the idea of liberty, and we mentioned that at Porkfest we had Agora Alley, we had Alt Expo that has all kinds of fun, exciting stuff. Books, foods, electric cars.
That's right.
Someone was doing a freaking hydroponics demonstration.
Nut job.
Yeah.
So this
doing
kind
a
of
nut
fun
job
stuff.
Demonstration as well.
I think this kind of fun stuff is really what gets people interested. So we got to do more fun stuff. Maybe we could try to do some fun stuff in our own communities. And
be approachable, be friendly, do cool things that get people involved.
My community is filled with retired people. We always do fun stuff.
Like shuffleboard and voting.
We got to get that shuffleboard thing, in there. But we kind of do bocce ball. We get a real big lawn. Do bocce ball.
Did you see they sell bocce ball with LED lights in them, so you can play at night now?
Yeah, somebody had a bocce ball thing up at Porkfest as well.
I think I read sometime that there was some raid on some anarchists, and they had bocce balls, and the cops thought they were bombs.
Oh no!
What the? Wow.
Cops, I think everything is bombs.
Cops are insane. The things that they expect anarchists to do, like squirt urine on them
throw
and like
feces from
throw
a bucket.
It's like, who the hell are these people that come up with this crap?
The cops said that the anarchists were throwing their own blood at them, like they've been storing blood up for weeks. And
oh god!
Yeah.
We just have barrels of feces that we're gonna throw at you.
This is what anarchists do, don't you know?
We're getting back to humanure now, but anyway,
humanure.
Yeah, anarchists aren't
This
going to throw
Mexico.
feces at cops. They could grow crops with that shit.
Exactly.
Bocce bomb.
I like the idea of playing games, though. I think games tends to get communities engaged, and they tend to be cooperative.
Oh, they had the Magic the Gathering game thing tournament.
I saw. Oh, there was card games going on there too.
I didn't even get to
Blackjack,
photograph that because I'm not even going to complete that sentence, but I didn't photograph that.
All right.
So you're falling down on the job.
Yeah, I had other things to do at the time.
So speaking of that job, when are those damn pictures going to be online?
That's a good question. This is why I'm showing them to all of you to prove that they exist here. Not that I was just taking things with a camera that didn't have a card in it,
or
just
looking
official.
Yeah.
Just posting them all over his wall so he can look at them.
That
when
camera's
no one's
actually
around.
a bomb. He was just waiting to throw it at a cop.
So the camera was actually a Fed, and I was working for him.
That was a massive camera you had, too.
It wasn't even that big. Now, the other camera I had at Liberty Forum, now that was huge.
That was a crazy big
huge.
camera. Do your hands ever get tired holding that thing up?
No, because the neck strap usually takes a lot of the weight as well.
Okay.
He's perfected his technique. He
Yeah.
does not tire.
He does not tire ever.
So this is one thing with the Free State Project because it's
See how easy I
kind
could
of,
add that's what she said, but I'm not going to add it.
That's what she said.
There you go.
The Free State Project, it gets a lot of liberty-minded people together in one area. So are they right that we don't have the capacity to do any kind of activism in our own communities of people who say things like that? Or is it just that we need to take a more creative approach and start small?
I think either way. I think there's stuff you can do in your own community, and I think there's stuff you could do as a larger group in a big community. If you ask me to weigh the two options as to which will be more effective, I believe moving to New Hampshire and doing things as a large group would be more effective.
Yeah, I think just doing what works is what's probably the best thing for you to do. So keep doing things, and whatever does work will work, and continue doing what does work. So.
I think it's an overall strategy that just has liberty being achieved in a very small areas is not really a good long-term thing because states never really will let that happen.
Things will evolve from whatever it is they will evolve from. They have to react to the things on the ground. I think it's just how reality is. People are going to have to live and react. And if they don't, they'll just stifle and die. But these are our activities. Do what works.
See, but you got a chance of creating a real alternative in parts of New Hampshire. Now, we're talking small. We're talking towns at this point. But I think there's sections of New Hampshire where you could demonstrate viable alternatives to the state. And ultimately, that's going to cause a greater impact than I think things that you'll do outside of it.
And I guess if they have some kind of alternate economic system going on that's not, that's not visible to the state, not really something the state can do. But I think it's great to have, both. It's good to have both. You have this big community where you can go and experience liberty in action and get some ideas, get some feedback on what works. And then, throughout the nation, you have different pockets of resistance being built up. So I think it's good to have people, doing whatever it is that they can do in their personal life. Analyze what you're good at, what your situation is, and pick a strategy based on that, not based on what a lot of other people want you to do.
Yeah, a lot of people are empirically interested in political philosophies. So if you can't show them examples of where free society has worked or where a freer society is working better, then many people will dismiss you right off the bat. And that's why people like David Friedman, they call themselves analytical anarchists, and that they're trying to show that anarchy is the best way to live. Given what most people want out of life, it will provide most people with that answer or with that solution that they're looking for. And I think New Hampshire and the Free State Project is the best thing towards that end in our lifetime.
Yeah, you're probably right. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the future of the Free State Project is going to be, which is why I continue to visit. And every time I visit, there's a little bit more, there's a little more concrete things there. Things are being built up. People are still moving. Numbers are growing. It's continuing. As people had said, I'm going to get to it. So people have been saying throughout that everybody's going to end up in New Hampshire. And even though people may have been drunk when they were saying that, I understand what the gist that they were going for. It's that this seems to be the hope of the libertarian movement, or the people who have libertarian ideas, that everything is moving kind of toward here. You have these ideas of how things are going to work. It's probably going to be tried right here. If you want to be there and witness it as it exists and as it happens, as it grows, you'll be in New Hampshire. So go to New Hampshire.
I think we can have liberty in our lifetime, no matter where we're living on this
True.
continent. But New Hampshire is ahead of the curve, so that's.
Then again, I think I'm going to have a rather long lifetime. So your lifetime idea, my lifetime idea may not be on the same scale.
I disagree. I think I'll live to 90.
90?
And I don't think I'll see it.
Why 90 and not say like
Well,
89
that's what
or
happens
91?
when you're a pacifist.
Well, I was just saying 90, around there.
Okay.
I think if you look at, like, in this current generation, I don't think you'll see in your lifetime outside of maybe New Hampshire.
I think that just means we have a lot of work to do, and we have to take a lot of different approaches to get
Are
there.
you willing to do all that work?
Not by myself, but I'm willing to a lot of work by myself.
Okay, well, how exactly do you go about getting extra help and extra work?
Getting extra help, just getting more people involved, doing
Right.
doing
How do you
fun
do that?
things. And spreading the ideas around.
Play
You know,
bocce
it's,
ball.
you
Bocce
gotta-
ball
you
it
gotta
is.
Spread,
Anarchist bocce ball.
Anarchist bocce ball. I think
And
that's
so-
good.
I think you got to spread the ideas out so people can start their own little pockets of resistance,
Yeah.
their own things. You know, it's snowballs. It's
See, I
it's kind of like you create new nodes that create new networks and
Right.
new nodes, and
new
It
nodes
goes.
create new networks, which create new nodes, which create new networks. It's a virtuous cycle kind of thing. But I think that everything still exists in New Hampshire. I mean, I'm an agorist. I think of actually providing people with examples rather than just telling people about examples. And this is the idea. New Hampshire is that example that people are looking for. And
sure.
So I think that, again, in our lifetimes, yes, we could see it there. And if the ideas are true, then I think people may try to either go there or compete with it.
And in our current life, we can see it there. I would just want to pause here and say that the ads at the top of our chat
Seasteading.
room.
Oh, you've been watching that
Wow.
too. I've been seeing adult chat. I've been seeing bocce ball sets.
Bocce
now.
ball sets. Okay, that's bocce ball sets.
Yeah.
A worthy purchase.
I
Real
see-
anarchist
Yeah.
cookbook.
Not a
anarchist
worthy
cookbook.
purchase.
And what's
Recipes for Disaster, Direct Action Manual, and DIY Guide.
Someone click on
That's
that.
from Crime Think, actually.
Oh,
So
okay, all
it
right, all right,
Actually,
sorry.
it won't be just
Just garbage.
Just garbage.
Yeah. How about
if
that-
you ever come across the Anarchist Cookbook, that was just written by some '60s radical who very poorly transcribed things from military manuals, and you just don't do anything that's in that book.
Okay. Well,
And we also have Virus and Trojan Remover. Those are
That's
three
good to
ads.
know.
sometimes Trojans are hard to remove.
Virus and
Oh.
Trojan Remover, bocce ball sets, and
For
real
Tennyson.
anarchist.
Does somebody want to answer my newbie question? I
What's-
came across a term and I didn't have time to Wikipedia it.
All right, go ahead.
All right. What's a geo-libertarian?
Geo-libertarians are essentially libertarians who believe in everything except private ownership of land. So they're private ownership free marketers on everything except for land and just the actual things that you can't make. So anything you can make from the fruit of the land, like the trees, you can make wood, and you can use the wood to make furniture and houses and things. You can own that stuff.
Okay.
But the actual land where all that comes from is not owned by any one individual person. It is free for everybody to use as they see fit.
And like Henry George would be an example of a
Yes.
geo-libertarian.
So-
This single taxers that
Right.
the only tax should be on land because
Yes.
land
So
you don't.
there's-
What about
there's some
plants on
geo-libertarians who
land?
don't believe in a single tax, though. Some geo-libertarians who believe in no taxes at all, but think that the community could protect the land from being exploited by any individualist or having unlimited accumulation happen in land. So they differ.
Those who believe in the single tax are often go by Georgists.
Those are Georgists.
Or Geoists,
Yeah.
or however some different people pronounce it. But Rothbard, in particular, has a pretty good bash of
Yeah.
Georgists.
Rothbard usually has a lot of good stuff. So
He likes bashing.
All right,
he
so
wrote Bashing's the fashion.
hey, we only have a couple minutes left here, so
Wow, that show
we're
went
going to
fast.
head out. But I want to say we have this free society being built right now in New Hampshire. Go there, check it out. Check out all the stuff we've written and photographed about it and videotapes of it because it's out there. And anarchist societies will work if the state stop cracking down on them, or if enough people are there to prevent the state from cracking down on them. So if you don't want to see the state crushing freedom, stop helping it. Stop saying that anarchy won't work and then going about and making it so it won't
He's getting
work. Just
progressively more bombastic.
He is.
you got to go out there and build some freedom. So
Yes.
that's what we're all about on
Bombast.
Thinking Liberty. We are about building freedom and yelling bombastic slogans of defiance. If you're not outraged, you haven't been paying attention, and if you're not hopeful for a free future, you haven't been listening to enough thinkingliberty.net. Good night.
Good night. Arab chat?
Hey, sit down and listen and they'll tell you when you're wrong. Eradicate but vindicate as progress creeps along. Puritan work ethic maintains its subconscious edge as old